Welcome, brothers and sisters. So let's feel like we're a family, because this morning, you may not agree with something, possibly. We're not all completely alike, right? We're all individual. And just like in a family, you have a little challenge in something, you keep that, you don't go away feeling bad, or you might not like the idea, but you really love each other. So let's feel, everyone please feel like we're in a family atmosphere here tonight. And so I would like to read a quote from not one of your more popular founding fathers who wrote his name on our document. His name was James Wilson. Human law must wrest its authority, ultimately open the authority of that law which is divine. Far from being rivals or enemies, religion and law are twin sisters, friends, and mutual assistants. Indeed, these two sciences run into each other. So again, that was James Wilson, one of the signers of our independence. I'm so grateful to the leader here in the faith here. He's really a man who has been everywhere, and is really if you meet him, you just know there's something behind him. There's this deep feeling of history, and he's just really an amazing man. So I want to introduce our pastor here, Reverend Kevin Thompson.
Thank you, Mike. You said that just like I wrote it for you. I wasn't born in America. I got here as quick as I could. And I arrived here on July 7th, 1977. That's 7/7/77. And I thought, wow, this is a special day. So I decided to go to the racetrack right away. That's where I was at the time. I went to the racetrack and I put $77 on horse number 7 in race number 7. I thought I couldn't go wrong. Guess what? The horse came in 7th. Anyway, thank you all for coming. Really glad to have you here. I'm glad that Dr. Frank Kaufman is here, my good friend. I think we're going to enjoy what he has to say. And let's make America great again. I don't mean that in a Trump way. I mean that in a heavenly way. Amen. That America was founded on 2 things, I think. The Bible and then the Constitution. Both of those things are under attack. Many people want to get rid of both of those things. I think you get rid of both of those things, America will dissipate. It'll fall apart. So, let's find out how to get America whole again. Amen? Amen. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, the Constitution. George Washington said it was short of a miracle, that it's a timeless principle. And now I want to honor our main keynote speaker. I know he's a busy man. He has the Settlement Project. He'll explain this, and he does many things around the world. He's been in Eritrea, Ethiopia, that conflict there, the war in Iraq, Croatia. That's crazy over there, the whole complexity of that. Anyway, frontline stuff. He's been a mediator. And he's thinking of other people. He's not thinking about himself. He's thinking about, how can I'm worried about you guys. I'm worried, what can I do to help you? Always consistently, you feel that selflessness. So I really want to just unite him with that sense of respect and good citizenship, good character. And also, he's a scholar. Yes. Okay? So let's invite up our keynote speaker, Dr. Frank Kaufman, Settlement Project.
Thank you very much. So with that, I'd like to join my voice to thank the Vice Mayor Acevedo. Yeah, for coming. That's really good of you. That's your time. And I'd like to thank Pastor Thompson for always, and Mrs. Thompson, can you stand as a couple? Because we didn't get to see Mrs. Thompson. Pastor and Mrs. Thompson. Yeah. Thanks. I'd like to thank the Thompsons for being just the epitome of hospitality. There's nothing like coming here and being welcomed by this family and the larger family they care for as pastors. And I'd like to thank ACOR and UPF for co-hosting an opportunity for everybody to be here this morning. So what I'll do is get these slides up. And you can see them there. Can everybody see them there? Okay, because there's a poll. Okay. And I'm gonna try to concentrate. I'm gonna try to concentrate and discipline myself and not go off script too much, because there's a fair amount of content and I don't need to kind of drag on all day long. So a couple of things I'll say by way of introduction. One is that partway along the way, you may start to feel or recognize types of images or language which will tempt you to think that this is a partisan speech. This is not partisan. And so stick with me to the conclusion. It's descriptive, it's not a campaign rally, okay? That's one of the things. And then, okay, so then I'll just go ahead with it. So the title of the talk that I wanted to give is called, What Will It Take to Make America Whole Again? And if you received the poster or saw the flyer online or something like that, these were the 4 items that were mentioned that were going to be the structure on which this little talk hangs, right? So here are our concerns: racial and cultural harmony, wholesome education and family culture. We've already heard something a little bit about that from several of the speakers. Secure borders and safe communities. And finally, freedom and the spiritual roots of America's founding. So if we're talking about making America whole, these are some of the issues that are currently need attention in my estimation. And so I want to look at these real quickly. When we look at the issue of racial and cultural harmony, other than that it's nice and people should do it and things like that, why is that tied to America in any particular way? It's tied to America in the minds and in the intention and in the design of the framers and founders. It's in all our founding documents. So in the preamble to the Declaration, we all are familiar with the phrase that all humans are created equal. In the Declaration, the preamble to the Constitution, we see that there's a call for a more perfect union. That's intercultural, that's interracial, it must be. Justice, equal justice. Again, there's no community, no ethnicity, no identity that is in any way unworthy of absolute equal justice. Every human being in the United States is exactly equal before the law. Should be, ain't, should be. Okay. Domestic tranquility, also in the preamble to the Constitution. And the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity is in the Constitution. These are elements in the Declaration of Independence and in the Constitution, which insist in the framers' mind how they wanted America to be built, insists that racial and cultural harmony define our daily lives and the fabric of our nation. Period. No question, no discussion, no argument. If you would rather live in a place different than that, then go find a nation with a different founding purpose, a different constitution, a different design. So here's the Declaration. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their creator, and so on and so forth. We're familiar with the Declaration of Independence. On this particular matter of racial and cultural equality, I just wanted to highlight this aspect of the preamble to the Declaration. All men are created equal. End of story, end of story. No argument, no question, nothing more to say about the matter. All human beings are created equal. The other thing I mentioned in the was a preamble to the Constitution. Here's a preamble to the Constitution. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, and so forth. We're familiar with the preamble. We can always look it up or get a little pocket one, carry around. And so that's what I said. A more perfect union, equal justice, domestic tranquility. All these are elements which constitute or comprise the quality of racial harmony and cultural harmony. So now we know how the United States was conceived, how it was designed, why these people put their lives at stake, left their wives and children at home, fought the most powerful military force in history. This is why. They explained why. When God granted victory to the colonial militia fighting the British Navy, when God granted this land to them, they got together. They had a lot of differences between them. They weren't even as friendly as any of us here in the room, honestly speaking. These guys, they fought like crazy, honestly speaking. They're intensely ideologically impassioned, all of them. But they could agree on certain things, and they could agree on how our nation was meant to be built. And one of them was meant to be sure that every single individual, every single community is exactly equal, has every opportunity, and is designed for prosperity. It should never be any other way than that in any encounter and in any institution and so forth. So how are we doing? How are we doing in that matter? 200 and some years later, are we progressing? Are we getting better? Are race relations better than they've ever been? They're not. They're not. And I think that some of us here are old enough to have hit points in our life in which we could look back to last year, look back 5 years earlier, look back 10 years earlier, and honestly feel that race relations are better than they've ever been. We have been at points in our lives like that. Sometimes you get on a plane, you don't know what to do, you're poking around. And I found this movie called 42. Is that the name of it? 42 is the story of Jackie Robinson. I cried the whole plane ride. I mean, you could see the America becoming what the designers meant it to become. We have always been progressing. We've always been progressing. It's always been better than it's ever been. And suddenly, precipitously, it's worse than it's ever been. It's genuinely worse than it's ever been. And I can't understand, people of goodness and people of conscience, people like the people in this room, we can't understand, how did it get worse? What caused an about face? Where, we all run around with all people of all different races. This was just normal life. You'd have like some guy from a different race making fun of your family. You'd be like, come on, man, you'd punch him in the arm. Life was all right, And now you have an incidental accident. You've been like a saint, you founded the Salvation Army, and then you accidentally in an interview said, some odd thing like something like, my maid is the sweetest person that I've ever met. And then you're canceled. You're like the devil. Like you said maid or something like that. And how did we get to an America where we were doing nothing but getting better, and then plummet down into that life? You don't even want to call it walking on eggshells. You want to call it walking on landmines, literally, honestly. And so it's something to look at. This is what I put this together, to look at this reality. So we had a very serious tragedy. Everybody's a walking journalist, right? Right? A little bit of trouble, I'll get that one. A little bit of trouble, I'll get that. You know, sell it to CBS or sell it to CNN or whatever. And so we had a terrible situation. It was visually terrible with the George Floyd death, and the movement Black Lives Matter erupted surrounding the tragic death of George Floyd. His family moved me, honestly, I have to say, especially his brother, if anybody's seen him speak. But following that, there were riots all summer in 2022. 2021. Error. And riots in 200 cities, $2 billion worth of property damage, and 25 deaths. There's nothing to excuse a bad cop. They're around. I've run into them myself. Bad cops are bad cops. So America needs $2 billion worth of property damage and 25 innocent people being trampled to death and crushed to death and murdered and shot. There's something wrong with race relations in America. Here's the finances of Black Lives Matter. It's received $82.9 billion. That particular organization from corporations. I know that there might be millionaires in the room, so I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand. But for anybody who's not a millionaire, if I gave you $2 million, could it basically get you to the end of your life?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Me too.
Try us.
Try it, the gentleman said. Yeah, 2 might be enough to get us through.
1 is enough.
1 is enough, okay. You know what a billion is? It's 1,000 of those. 1,000 of those. If you had to live 1,000 lives, the young lady in pink in the back said she's donating one of her $2 million. You could live 1,000 lives. And this is what has been received by Black Lives Matter, which as I say, I'm not going to be partisan, so I'm not going to publicly offer my assessment of whether or not that organization contributes well to promoting interracial and intercultural harmony. But certainly they have the wherewithal to do so, I would think. Okay, so that's a quick review of how the founders thought of intercultural harmony and what has become of our situation today. The next item in my 4-point list was wholesome education. So why are we to presume, once again, that in America this is something that we should expect, that should surround us, that we should almost take for granted, that every normal and natural human being would be committed to such a concept, such an investment? It's in a way almost the most important thing in our lives. Certainly any parent thinks of it as the most important thing in our lives. Again, if we want to know what's up, why, it's not only that, it's almost biological, a wholesome education. But on top of that, the framers had this in mind. And again, I draw from elements in the preamble to the Constitution. They said, how do we want this country to be? Here are some of the things that absolutely must define our nation. Promote the general welfare and blessings for ourselves and for our posterity. The issue of posterity is primarily where one has the heart for education. All right? And there it is again. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, there's a number of things that we have to do: establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility. And here's 2 of them: promote the general welfare and secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and for our posterity. Therein lies, embedded in the mind of the framers and the commitment of the founders and the commitment of every American who's lived since, and all the young men who have gone off to fight in foreign wars, or who the police and the people who are trying to keep this country whole. They're trying to keep this particular part of it whole as well. Wholesome education. for our children and for everybody. And we should learn all our lives. So how are we doing? How are we doing in the arena of wholesome education? We are not doing well in the arena of wholesome education. These are simple realities. They're not made up. And I'm not trying to rev up the crowd or kind of vote for this person or that. It's not my point. This is a simple account of the nature of the fact of the matter. This is just a factual account of our circumstances. Indiana? What is Indiana? Like a hotbed of, like radical left? I was in Berkeley the other night. I thought I might meet a leftist thinking person in Berkeley, but it wasn't Indiana. Where's the other one? Where's this? Virginia? Yeah, that's a mix. People in government, you got to watch out. But these are a situation, and I'm going to race through these next slides because I'm not here to do anything sensationalist. But we are looking at what is the quality and what's going on with the people to whom you trust your children for hours and hours a day. Children, I mean, these are little children. So I raced through that slides because I'm not trying to do something emotional here. I'm trying to those images. They're horrifying images. I have yet to find anybody who can explain to me. I trust people not to have evil. I trust people not to be evil. So I have not found anybody to explain to me how anyone can think this is a good thing. What do people think is good going on there? If anybody has any clues, I want to hear. How did we? That's its own thing. But how did we get to that? Again, if anybody here is old enough, and I don't want to kind of have the Lord of the Flies confession of a teenage boy, but if you went into the candy store, there was like way high up, wrapped in plastic is quote unquote Playboy magazine. Way, way up wrapped in plastic, with cameras all on it or something. And now there's those images I showed. How did we get to where people are comfortable subjecting innocence? I have a little grandson in my house. They are so innocent. They tear your heart out of you. They're innocents. And who feels that's okay? Why is that okay? What is trying to be accomplished there? And how did we get so far so fast? Okay, the next, I'm already at this slide because I didn't want those images up in front of us long. So the next of the four issues that I wanted to discuss and examine together are secure borders and safe communities. Where do those come from? Why do we take that for granted? Why do we presume this is going to be the case about how our country should be organized and what daily life should be like? Again, it's in the preamble to the Constitution, common defense, domestic tranquility, the general welfare. Hundreds of years ago, there it is. You've seen it several times in this presentation already. We, the people of the United States, in order to create a more perfect union. And these are some of the things that the founders and framers expected to have characterized the United States of America. Ensure domestic tranquility. This is, when they sit down, they're arguing with each other about this very few things they're going to want to have in our country. And want even the government to be concerned about. One is domestic tranquility, the common defense, and the general welfare. That's what these are related to. Secure borders, that's mostly common defense. But safe communities, they're related. So how are we doing there? Now you see its theme or pattern of how this little presentation is unfolding. Secure borders. That's a caravan. Those are people heading here, hoping to have a life here. Do you think that's just a big line of evil, bad human beings? Big line of people who you would want to have the most wonderful lives, every last one of them. Those people aren't the problem. What's needed is an immigration policy that respects those people and respects the citizens of the United States. Are you just a racist? Are you just mean and a racist because you find this problematic? Is that why you find this why we find this problematic? This is why it's problematic. That's the numbers. That's the numbers. At least 12 million. At least 12 million what are called undocumented aliens or illegal immigrants in the United States of America. 12 million. That's a strain on the capacity of the country to properly take care of these people. It's just a strain. It's hard to be in a country undocumented. You're like a criminal. It would be like I robbed a bank. I'll never be free a day in my life. I'm always looking over my shoulder. I'm always afraid. I have no standing. There's nothing humanitarian about having 12 million people who are living in fear for their. Am I going to get ripped away from my family? Are they going to catch my wife working her behind off at a hotel somewhere? It is not the foundation for anything humanitarian or anything noble in terms of interracial or intercultural behavior. It's criminal against these very people. And here's the biggest or worst part of it, that this border is like it's like the bazaar, it's like an open bazaar for sexual trafficking. It's riddled with sexual trafficking. Does anybody here think that these young teenage girls or 8 or 9 or 10-year-old or does anybody think that these people are in good hands, well taken care of? Their circumstances are inhumane to the nth. And the amount of sexual slavery, and a lot of times the cartels own your lives for the rest of your life for mediating or negotiating the transfer of you or a member of your family to this country. And they own your family back home, and your debt to them remains for the rest of your life. It's like you're coming to America to be a slave. The other issue, of course, which we know about with the open borders, has to do with just the flood of I would call it arsenic. It's like arsenic, fentanyl. There's no way to take fentanyl in which you are not risking dying that second, period. And tons of it are coming through an open border. I'm racing through this stuff. On any one of these issues, a knowledgeable person could speak for days. Methadone. Does anybody know about that? That is an addictive drug. You've heard of it? It's fairly addictive. Do you know it? Teeth fall out, your bones crack, and you still rather be taking methadone than get off of it, no matter what's happening to you. Its addiction capacity is over the top. 85% increase this fiscal year. So that's item number 3, secure borders, safe communities. These are our reality. Whether you're left or right, whether you're radical or not, whether you're here as a cell, you could be here as a jihadi cell. These are the facts, these are the data. It doesn't matter. You can love America, you can hate America. This is just a fact of how we're living. And it happened in the blink of an eye, or felt like, or seemed like in the blink of an eye. The final thing, that was in the list and in the flyer that you were invited here was freedom and the spiritual roots of our founding, the spiritual roots of our country. Mr. Hankins Wayne dedicated some of our time to that question and conversation. Again, it appears in the Declaration of Human Rights. They're self-evident truths. So anything that's self-evident is transcendent in nature. It presumes or implies a spiritual origin point. It's not a matter of argument. It's not a matter of scientific argument. A self-evident truth means you know it in your heart, or you know it as a spiritual being. The other thing in the Declaration is unalienable rights endowed by our Creator. How can anyone have unalienable rights? That means they can never be encroached upon. No one on earth can ever encroach upon your rights. Even if it was not said, endowed by our Creator. The very phrase unalienable demands that it have a transcendent origin, we have those rights from something greater than anything on earth. You don't even have to add Creator, because they're unalienable. If they came from anywhere else, they would be invadable. They could be taken away. There's nothing can guarantee your rights as unalienable unless it comes from a power greater than all else. But the framers included endowed by our Creator. And this is again what Wayne was talking about, providence. So our freedom and our spiritual roots the framers were not shy about this matter. I don't know, not all of them were Christians. Not all of them were even believers in God. Some of them they believed in a transcendent force, but they weren't all of a single religious belief. But they know that the welfare of this country cannot survive without the force of its origins, namely God. I call it God. Something greater than all else. And once again, as I've done all throughout the talk here, there they are, self-evident truths, unalienable rights endowed by our Creator. So here again, if you want to live in a country that was not designed on the belief that there's a Creator, or that you have unalienable rights, that your rights come from the government or from your aunt, or there's countries that if you want to go live in one of those, and you want to live in this country, it's kind of like we don't turn on the air conditioner, or if it's too hot here, go find a hotel. If you don't like a God type country, go find a non-God type. It's just that is what this country is. It's how it was founded. It's how the framers thought that would be the best for all people all the time. So what are we looking at? Freedom and godliness. In the Bill of Rights, here's a big freedom. Everybody knows this one. First Amendment, Bill of Rights, First Amendment to the Constitution. No religious establishment, no free exercise. And the guarantee of free exercise of religion. What's called freedom of religion. It's a guaranteed right in the United States of America. So everywhere in America, our freedom and the spiritual roots of our founding is everywhere to be found. That's where it's to be found. That's why our country is like that. And it's worked nicely until now, somehow. Why? There's a Bill of Rights, we're all familiar with it. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, together with a bunch of other rights, especially including freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and so forth. And Luan spoke to that like crazy just now before, when you were up here speaking, about the willy-nilly denial of rights that are guaranteed by the Constitution, just kind of freely like saying, I think I'll just take those all away. That's not America, and that's why Luan was saying that she has trouble singing pledging and singing, because the current circumstance in America has been a whimsical assault on its bases. That's our trouble. Experts say the attack on free speech are rising across the United States. That's U.S. News World Report. I forget what this paper is. Extremely aggressive internet censorship spreads across the world's democracy. Again, the one I was talking about, that medical opinion, even just mentioning a drug, got you deplatformed, lost your livelihood, can't feed your family, can't pay your rent, because you mentioned the name of an established drug. Like ivermectin, if you're you're a racist. Okay. All right. It's the culture has gone contrary to the founders' intentions. People are discovering now how both the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, and the FBI is in a full-out, ungoverned or unchecked assault on American citizens. They're spying on you. They're reading your emails, and I guess somehow they made a deal that Google will read all your emails on Tuesdays, and the FBI will read all your emails on Wednesdays. It isn't that the FBI are not our only invaders of our privacy, but the problem is that, so far as I know, the Google people have fewer guns and batteries. But no, the government is especially not supposed to have anything to do with overturning your rights to privacy and your rights to free speech. A recently released secret court ruling found that the government's warrantless surveillance of emails routinely violated the Fourth Amendment. So the Fourth Amendment has to do with illegal search and seizure. So they're just in your stuff. It happens to be your emails, but it's not your sock drawer where you keep a roll of 20s for emergency. But they're in your stuff. The FBI is in your stuff, and that is a tyrannical state. That is a tyrannical state. It's not the proper circumstance of the United States. Okay, so with this, I'm about to hit my prescription or some recommendations, and then I'll be finished. I think I haven't gone too long, right? I bet. Yeah, okay. All right. So, so the second part of what I've put together, and it's brief, don't feel. Okay. So I've picked what I think are some causes for what has happened in this kind of sudden plummet. What suddenly happened? How did we get here from 08 wasn't like this, or 94 wasn't like this? What happened? One of the things that happened was a very serious effort of the international communist apparatus that had the design to overthrow the United States as the central world power. It failed. That operation failed from within. Especially Stalin's brutality embarrassed the faithful. So world communism suffered a lot due to the expose or exposure of Stalin's brutality by Khrushchev. It created a crisis in the community. It would be like, who was that famous preacher who got caught, Tammy Faye or something like that? Who was that? Remember that?
Jim Baker.
Yeah, Jim Baker. It's kind of like Stalin was the Jim Baker of communism. So, it's like there was a crisis of faith. Communism wasn't working well, and you kept it under wraps for as long as you could, and Khrushchev exposed it. And what that did was it created a very intense movement of trying to analyze what about communism wasn't working and how could we make it work. They had very little success in the United States of America, despite having invested tremendous amount in destroying us and infiltrating our institutions. And an Italian philosopher named Antonio Gramsci, and later his thinking and writing was perfected by a Marxist student activist named Rudi Dutschke. And people probably have heard this phrase, the long march through the institutions. So what that strategic design was meant to do is attain the communist ideal quietly and in each institution, rather than trying to overthrow the whole country through violent revolution. So here's a little bit about it. The intellectual takeover of society without needing to resort to military conflict. This was the invention or genius or design of Gramsci and later Rutke, slowly winning over the chief institutions to determine the direction of culture. So when you see this kid on a transvestite's lap or on a drag queen's lap, it's not sudden. It's only that it's been very carefully pursued and designed. It's only that we haven't been paying attention to an explicit design that was developed as a philosophical purpose by neo-Marxist thinkers. A soft revolution from within these institutions. The focus was on the universities first, then the unions. Workers have always been a special interest of the atheist left. The arts, K through 12 school, the media, then corporations, and finally society as a whole. Now you can see clearly what has happened. It derives out of an explicit geopolitical analysis that was a response to the inability of the Soviet Union to overtake the United States militarily and through classical espionage in the 50s and 60s. And so this is purposeful work. People who are really heavily into this can show you the documents and the internal documents of how this is pursued. It's quite horrifying. You really feel raped when you start to read how carefully this kind of stuff has been perpetrated. Within the design of the long march through the institutions, there is a philosophical development called critical theory. And I'm trying not, I don't want to be too heady, and I think I'm doing all right on that. It's not like some philosopher's kind of forgotten where he is and he's talking to himself, right? Okay. So critical theory is a development of philosophy in which ultimately arrives at the affirmation that there's no objective truth. Another thing is called standpoint theory, like no womb, no opinion. There's no objective truth. There's your truth, there's my truth. And this relativizes all possibility of collective discourse. That's what critical theory is. And the only thing that they do uphold as true is that all of reality is reflected in an oppressor-oppressed mindset. So anything that can be objectively established is undermined through this philosophical development. There's your truth and there's mine. Have you ever heard stand in your truth? It doesn't sound like a horrible thing to say, but eventually, if you can eventually erode the capacity for common agreement on anything, can the brightest sociological scholar in the world write on the Black experience in the New York jazz scene in 1950? If she's white, no, she's not Black. She couldn't possibly. She might write the best and finest, most brilliant piece of work. But under standpoint theory and critical theory, there's only just the incessant fraction of truth. There's no objective truth, and so everything then becomes and it's coupled with the oppressor-oppressed mindset. And then you can begin to see what we're surrounded with and what we're feeling and what we're seeing every day. There's identity theory, which looks at privileged identities. If you're rich, if you're from a good neighborhood, if you're privileged identities. They're believed to oppress LGBTQ identities. So there are people they apologetically say, I'm cisgender. Even that there's a specific name you have to, it's a privileged identity. And just by nature, you're an oppressor. Critical gender theory, the assumption that just by being male, you oppress women. I bet you there's a lot of males in this room that do no such thing. But under critical theory and under the structure of oppressor-oppressed, there's no way out of it. Finally, critical race theory, that white dominant society inherently oppresses racial minorities. So essentially what I'm pointing out by going into this slightly maybe a little difficult set of thoughts is that it's philosophically grounded and systematically produced and perpetrated. It's not accidental that we've come this way, we've come this far. The other side of it, and this is why I said at the outset that this is not a partisan talk, that it's not a Trump rally, although they look fun to me. I've never been to one, but there's another thing that exacerbates or combines with those leftist and communist elements that I was describing earlier, or neo-communist. And that is that the development of tech has combined with a crony capitalism. That means in and out of government, swinging doors, what are they called, lobbyists and ex-elected officials that go on to work on their relationship. Vice Mayor, you know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. And so, there's been a lot of concern about in the state of California about people that are doing legislation that might benefit the wealth of their family, right? There's some accusation. So this is what I'm talking. I'm sorry.
Reparations. Talk about reparations.
Yeah. Oh no, not the reparations. More the whether or not elected officials can stock invest.
Oh.
Yeah, these kind of things. And so basically, this is not a communist problem. This is not a leftist problem. This is not even a woke problem. Basically, the tech has naturally produced such speed that, and they've developed the capacity to exacerbate like confirmation bias. If you pause to look at something, all your ads start changing there. That's the problem of TikTok. It isn't only just that it has origins in that data goes to China. That's not its only problem. Its other problem is, and Facebook, and probably Instagram. Its problem is that it's designed to addict you. It follows what you do and pulls you further. It's designed to keep you there. Advertisers have always been like that. They buy their ad on Route 66, at rush hour by the traffic light. We didn't think of them as evil. That's what advertisers do. They buy that billboard right next to the traffic light. Good thinking. And so advertisers always want what are called eyeballs, right? They want what are called eyeballs. And so they just want you in here. And what they do is they deepen people deeper and deeper into their little cul-de-sacs, into their, I forget the word, it's a common normal word. It's your own little group, your own little parochial.
Niche?
Pod.
Bubble?
What is it?
New word, pod.
A pod. Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Okay, but basically, I might have some liberal ideas. I might come to learn that there's something in sociology that would be helpful for human welfare. I might, but if I pause to look at a Newt Gingrich article, I'll just get pulled deeper until I'm reading, till I'm reading like how to buy those horns like the guy, the QAnon show. Sooner and I'm just pulled in there, and that's the only thing I read, and that's my community, and those are the emails, and those are the websites, and those are the newsletters, and all it is, it's just capitalist greed. It's just plain old-fashioned getting people to look at your product. So it's an exploitation of consumerist. It's a materialization of you. It has nothing to do with your spirit or your concerns or your breadth or your education. It's just looking at you as a consumer. It's the greedy capitalist kind of condemnation of or version of materialism. And they've become so intertwined and so intermixed. So when you have conscious ideologues who grow out of the communist and Marxist determination to literally destroy this country as fast as possible, who've developed a very sophisticated strategy of what's called the long march through the institutions. And then when you don't even have the defense or the righteousness of people who are for the free market. I'm for the free market, but I'm not for you addicting my 11-year-old kid to sexual things or something like that so you can make a buck. So this is what I mean to say that it's kind of a perfect storm in which the people who are meant to be our defenders are not careless. Their addictions, their addictions to their greed and power, have caused them to abandon their posts in the defense of the beautiful quality of the United States of America, which I showed in our founding documents. And again, this goes back to Wayne or to what Michael's saying about our spiritual quality, about family, and things like that. So and I'm here at the end. If you want to say that it was better then, there's no progress to be made there. You will just spend the rest of your time arguing with, oh, it was better then when your mom had to put on curlers so that she could have her hair properly while she vacuumed the house all day. Is this what you're telling me America was better then? Or when Negroes knew their place, that's the better America. So it's not the good old days. If for those of us who are concerned to establish the America that rises to its glory, it's not the good old days that any one of us can properly defend. We'll just end up in a blender of vicious condemnation of the United States all day long, of people who are experts at finding every last little thing that wasn't perfect along the way. What I want to say is that we need to be bringing back the conversational days, where one can freely speak your passions. I don't care. I wouldn't care if there are 1,000 leftists around me or rightists or whatever. I don't care. Tell me what you think. This is fine with me. America was not necessarily more harmonized, or it was. There was something greater than our opinions. That's the America we need, not an America of a certain type of person's opinions. That there's something greater than my personal opinion, that we could converse, that we believed, and here's your idea of independent thinking. That's like the mission of your organism, that conversation leads to a higher grasp of what's true. This is our enemy, are anybody, whether on the left or the right, who are involved in driving us further away from a trust, social trust, a trust in one another, a trust in conversation, a trust in my ability to hear things that are difficult for me to hear, trust. And then the second thing I want to offer is this. The things I've described are irreversible. The speed of tech is irreversible. The sophistication of the theories of Gramsci, of Foucault, of Derrida, of deconstruction, of postmodernism, they're irreversible. They're highly sophisticated. They're deeply in the universities, these thoughts. If we hope to create an America that shines in the glory of its founding, it can't be a nostalgic undertaking. We have to believe that the essential truths of the founders and the essential ideals, and here's where Wayne said, God founded America, God's providence for America. We have to believe that that can meet the most sophisticated cancel culture, the most sophisticated woke ideology. We're not trying to go back and say you're not allowed to think like that, not allowed to speak like that. And these original documents, they have to find a way to meet the fact that greedy entrepreneurs are going to do that, and find out what forbids that, and legislate to make sure that our original and essential ideals can stand. I hope you're getting what I'm saying. You say kids don't read. Kids don't read. Nobody reads books. They rather watch video. Okay, they rather watch video. Whatever our nation has become in terms of education, in terms of literacy, in terms of the formation of thought, we have to be in that fight, and we have to be confident that if indeed God is one of the founders or the founder of our country, and that God's providence for our country is that it flourished, that human equality flourished, tranquility, happiness, prosperity. If those are our destiny, they have the capacity to meet whatever has evolved. And I'm hoping and I'm believing that the reason why we got into this situation is that we weren't paying attention. The people were working to destroy us, and we didn't know they were doing it. Now we know they're doing it, and good luck, game on. That's us. Good luck, game on. And you're not my enemy. I don't hate you. You, for some bizarre ass reason, you believe it's good to do what you're doing to my children. I don't get it, but game on. America is this. It's this, and let's go. No, I'm not saying go backward. There's enough here to meet the advance of tech, to meet ChatGPT. There's enough here. That's our job. It's a hard job because we fell behind. Thanks a lot for listening.
Does anyone have any questions? Excellent.
Yes, I want more. You've got the formula. It has to be understood because you can't fight and force isn't going to make this. I think it's smart moving forward, like you say. If video is conveying to the young people, then you don't. Maybe you can still do books, but do videos, do something that gets the young people's attention. Because they are so not informed. I talk to a lot of young people, and it is frightening that they know nothing. And how can they make a decision? It's their world. Yeah. So, thank you.
Thank you. Here's a question.
I have a question, yes.
I heard this morning in the news Donald Trump's going to jail. What's your take on that?
Sensational.
My take is that I feel sorry for his roommate. No, I'm
Come on, they're gonna write the best book ever.
A more serious answer is, I believe that, I'm a New Yorker, I'm from Queens, I grew up near him. I've met him many times, I've met his family many times, I've been in the living room with him, and both in New York and in Florida and so on and so forth. I used to regard him as a fairly clownish figure. All New Yorkers did. Somehow a miraculously force of nature in business genius, but kind of clownish in his pumpery or something like that. But I happen to believe that he's one of the most important presidents America has ever had. He distilled the essence of a patriotic intuition that provided all Americans with a chance to understand the basic ideal of and blessing of being in America. Every effective person of conservative bent is always regarded as a clown and as a buffoon. Reagan was the biggest buffoon ever, and according to the liberal critics of him. I think President Trump, if they jail him, I doubt he's more worthy of imprisonment than a lot of people who have let go. So I would tend to see it as an extension of the type of persecution he's received over the course of his public life. It's possible that it's if they can successfully jail him, they must have him on something. But I do not believe that it's a degree of criminality. Personally, I doubt it's a degree of criminality that would be worthy of that sort of humiliation. Thank you very much.
Just one more question. Anyone have a question? Yes.
Actually, just a comment about this question right here, Donald Trump. I believe that God put him in office. I believe God took him out. The reason why? Because the public, the American public, looked at him as the Messiah, not Moses. He's not the Messiah because this country is run by we the people. That means the people. But the people didn't support him. And a lot of people didn't go out and vote. They've not shown a presence. They've not been at their school boards. They've not been at these different places, at the foundational offices, supporting candidates and doing all these things to help support his effort. Everyone's looking for him to come and solve all the problems. So he's the target. Now, we have ways to get around that while he's the target. And that's what we need to talk about.
Thank you. Which leads me, I have one question here. Maylin?
Yes, I do have a question.
Maylin, come here. Come on up. Also, while she comes up here, I just want to invite everyone here. I have the address. It's 31089 Palomares Road, Castro Valley, Luann's home. We have all-you-can-eat fresh salmon, big buffet, and music too. The band was here, Robert Schwartz and Joshua Cotter. They're going to play music. She's got a little ranch over there. I'll call it a ranch. It sounds nice. Luann's home. So all of you are invited afterwards. Okay? That if you Google the address, it says road closed. It's not closed. You know, you take Eden Canyon, make a right, go past the stop sign, Palomares, make a left, follow it. She's on Palomares Road. I have the address. So all of you are invited to wonderful food. The environment there is awesome. It's pure nature, you know, the creation. Loving us up. Well, our last question here is from Mei Ling. She's from mainland China, one of my good friends. So I'm really excited to hear her question.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, my question is, say all this sex education and critical theory and slowly, surely going to the school system, and lots of family, especially parents, are really worried. And how do we put a Bible, our religion, God's law to the school? Just like what they did, I think that's also a lesson for us, and how we can put our God our beliefs in the school system. Just want to know this.
Freedom. Yeah, it's
It's a great question. I think a lot of people who suspect that it would be good and healthy for schools to re-embrace religion properly think that it's a lost cause, that the laws of the land prevent that, but they don't. There are ways to have prayer in schools. There are ways to have the Bible in schools. It has to be done properly. The main thing, they exploited the doctrine of no establishment, and the innocent believers buckled and allowed both the Bible and the prayers to be taken out of schools because it was wrongly branded as establishment. You can have prayers in schools, and you can have kids who don't like it, don't have to, and doodle for that 30 seconds. It's not as black and white, and you're absolutely right. And the Bible can be taught just not as the religion that all must follow. And if there's a kid, if there's a Muslim kid in the class, and the teacher should have enough sense to say, that's the Muslim religion is that, but one day you come tell us about the Quran. See, and it can be done creatively. So the people who hate, quote unquote, hate God and religion, exploited the doctrine of establishment and twisted it around to create a completely secular society, which we got our kind of hats handed to us on that one, but we could get it back in. And it would be healthy for the school. It doesn't only have to be the Bible, it can be everything. And while I got the mic, if I may, just real quick, sorry, Mike, I just want to, the settlement project is deadly serious. It's doing extremely well. It's all over the country. The URL is sp12.org. And my marketing friend, Bento, said, ask everybody to give you a donation. So, give me a donation.
Click on the button that says donate. We did, and we're happy to do so.
Yeah. So, I'm shy about that kind of stuff, but please support the Settlement Project. It's exactly of this sort of matter. That is, it's a non-partisan but very philosophically clear determination to get our country back to a wholesome and pleasant nation that many of us have known and gratefully known to be living in until these days. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you. My goodness. So I just want to finish again. When the government, I was tongue twisted before, when the government fears the people, when the government is afraid, when it fears the people, there's freedom. And when the other way around, when people fear the government, that's when you have tyranny. And there's a feeling of that right now today. So, but today I have a lot of hope because we have our great representative here, the vice mayor. I mean, you can see the authenticity, you can see his demeanor and how much he really is here with his heart. And we're together, we're together. I'm not your boss, you're not my boss. We're here to work, to serve, and to love our country and love this world, love the universe, right? So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. I want a big hand for all of you, and of course, our Main Street. So again, come on down, we can talk more, have a nice picnic. God bless you. God bless America. Amen.